Hello and welcome to the Money Compass. In each of our Money Journey episodes, Julie brings to you a special guest to share their treasured memories along with the highs and lows of their very own unique and emotional money journey.
Hello and welcome to today's Money Journey, and I'm joined by Juanita Duke, who is going to be sharing with us her story about her money journey. So to start off today, I'm going to ask you, Juanita, what is your earliest money memory?
My earliest money memory is actually of a millionaire giving me a 10 shilling note. I can remember exactly where I was standing inside a little room in a bed and breakfast on the west coast of Ireland, and I think I was probably about 8 years old, and we didn't come from a wealthy family. You know, we were kind of just very average people. And I think probably I was on about threepence or sixpence of a pocket money a week at that age, and to be given a 10 shilling note in one go for something from a complete stranger was just amazing to me. And that kind of sparked my interest, even at that very young age, in how did somebody become a millionaire? You know, how did one person be so wealthy when everybody else just had, you know, threepence for pocket money, you know? So, but that definitely stuck in my mind all my life, that few minutes in that room.
Oh wow, that's such a fantastic experience. So why did you get the 10 shilling note? What was the reason behind the visit and the occasion?
Well, we were on holidays. He owned a castle on the west coast of Ireland, and we always took our holiday on the west coast of Ireland, and he was a family friend. So it was just pocket money, just giving it to us to spend and enjoy on our holiday, but it was massive to us. It was a fortune, you know.
You could buy a lot of ice creams for that. So.
I think we bought a swing ball or something like that. Yeah.
Oh, no, fantastic. It's a really interesting, a great earliest money memory. Do you want to tell us your money journey in your own words?
Yeah, certainly. What I will say is it's been a real roller coaster, highs and lows the whole way along. I left school when I was 16, and obviously this was in the 70s, mid 70s. And the expectation then was that you would leave school. I didn't go to university. I left school. I just got a job, regular job. And the intention was that I would meet a nice man. I would get married. I would have a family. I'd be a stay-at-home mum, and the husband would be the breadwinner. And that was as much as my expectations were of life and of money and jobs. But actually then I met my first husband whenever we were about 16. And when I was about 17, I started working in his family business. And that gave me a real understanding of what hard work being in a family business is, the hours that have to be put into it. And it gave me a real good work ethic and discipline. We worked like really 80-hour weeks for £30 each a week. That's what we got for our salary. So it was pretty low paid, even by standards of those days. But we lived with his family, and we saved absolutely every penny of what we earned. And by the time we were 23, we bought a piece of land. We had saved up and paid for the foundations. We had saved our money and paid for the walls. We had saved our money and paid for the roof. And there we were at 23 years old with our first child and completely mortgage free. And that's one of the highs on the market.
That's a great place to be at 23, yeah. No mortgage, yeah.
Absolutely, to be 23 years old and have no mortgage, no debt, no car debt, absolutely nothing, no credit cards. I don't even know if there were credit cards in those days, but we certainly didn't have need of them, and we didn't have them. And I don't think we realised, or I certainly didn't personally realise, just what a fortunate position we were in, and what we could have built, or what our life could have been if we'd actually acknowledged just how massive that was. But then when my children were about, I think 3 and 5, something like that, I'm from Northern Ireland. And there was a massive bomb in Enniskillen. It's called the Poppy Day bomb, or the Remembrance Day bomb. And a lot of people died in that. And it made me think, did I really want to bring my children up in a country that was so unstable and just felt so unsafe? And, you know, whenever you're a new mum and you just want to protect your little babies. So we decided that we would emigrate. And obviously we decided we'd go to Canada.
Right.
The cost of emigrating was massive, you know, not just the international flights, the moving, what we had, our possessions, but we find ourselves that we were in a country where property was more expensive. We were going to have a mortgage for the first time in our lives. We were going to have to borrow money to buy a car. So I went from being very comfortably off. We always lived within our means. We didn't have like luxuries or anything like that, but we just lived comfortably. So we moved to somewhere where money was very, very tight. Every single penny was accounted for, and it was accounted for in a row of jam jars that sat on my windowsill, with some would go in for food and some would go in for fuel for the car and some would go in for the electric bill. So it was a very different life. Then roll forward a few years and we got terribly homesick because in those days there were no cheap flights. There was no internet to communicate with people. There were only very expensive international phone calls. So you communicated with your parents, your siblings, whatever, by letter basically. And we got homesick and we decided to move back to Northern Ireland, and that had another massive hit financially, because again we had to pay for another international move, the international flights. We had to sell, the cost of selling the house that we had bought in Canada, and we were starting all over again back in Northern Ireland with a tiny little home, not a massive mortgage, but it was a tiny little home, and it was a huge step down financially from where we were. So that was another kind of pretty low part of my roller coaster. Then by that stage, my kids then, for a few years later, they were back into kind of secondary education. So they didn't need me quite so much. I was happy to go out to work, and I ended up going back into I went into the corporate world for the very first time. I got an extremely high paid job for somebody who had only their own personal experience in family business and no kind of corporate experience. And so by the mid 90s, I was earning around 30,000 plus a year of a salary in the retail world. And I mean, that was absolutely massive. Even in 95, to be earning in excess of 30,000 a year was just more money than we'd had coming into the house ever. Yeah. But there'd been cracks in the marriage that had been kind of sat with for years. But finally, they'd actually been there earlier on in our marriage, but I wasn't in a financial position to have the choice to get up and leave. And it was probably one of the first times in my life when I realized that actually money gives you choices, and I didn't have the choice to leave when I wanted to leave. But finally I got to the stage that I did have my own income and I had the power to make choices for myself. So I actually decided that it was time to leave a marriage that wasn't working. But yet again, here was another financial hit, divorce, moving home, all of that. So I'd gone from being mortgage free to moves that took all of our money, to getting back in, having a good salary coming in, to going back down low again into kind of divorce. So there I was on my own. I had a reasonable salary at this stage. I had left the job that I was in. I ended up being made redundant. And there I was, I bought a new home and I was made redundant. And there I was, back again, having to use credit cards. By this time I did know what a credit card was, and I was using a credit card to pay my mortgage because I was made redundant, and I went to social securities and was told I could get like £27 from a rates or something a month, and that was it, or a week, whatever it was, but there was no benefits for me. I don't know why I didn't get any, but there you go. But anyway, so I was rock bottom again. Got another job, made redundant again. Got another job, made redundant again. So 3 times I had to pick myself up and be made redundant and be right back to the beginning. So that took a massive toll on my whole kind of, a couple of decades probably of my life was just up and down and up and down. And then on the 3rd time I said, that is it, I am done. I have to take control of my income generation myself. I cannot, in my now kind of 50s, I guess I was early 50s, said, that's it. The chances of me going out there and getting a highly paid job to fund the type of life I want is very small. So I'm going to have to go down the entrepreneurial route, which was something I'd always loved anyway. So that's when I decided to start my own business. And by that stage, I got remarried again. Yeah. So that we got remarried in 2006. So all was looking good. I was starting my own business, blah, blah, blah. The housing boom was just starting. It was all looking good. We thought, right, we better buy another property between us, because my husband hadn't a property. His accommodation came with the job that he was in at the time. So we were living there. And we decided we would buy a plot of land and we would buy a house. So we bought this land, we got our mortgage approved, and we started to build. And 2 years into the build in 2010, the builder walked off the job. He just disappeared, never to be seen again. We then spent, all the house was foundations, a roof and walls. There were no windows, no doors, nothing inside, just blocks, basically, blocks with some slates on the roof. And we did not have the money to finish that house ourselves. What was left on the mortgage drawdown would not have finished the house. So we just had nothing. We borrowed some money from family to at least put windows and doors in and do a little bit of the work inside. But it was a shell. There was no internal doors. We had a curtain for the bathroom. That was the only room that had a door, and it was a curtain. There were mice running in and out of the house because it wasn't finished on the outside. So it was just, they could just come and go as they please. It was pretty dire. We then spent 10 years taking that builder through the court system to reclaim what we had lost. And we were finally in 2020 awarded £90,000 compensation from the builder, which was extremely bittersweet, and more bitter than sweet, because just a few weeks before we were awarded that, the builder was made bankrupt by another claim. So we got absolutely nothing, not one penny. So we were still in a house that we couldn't sell because it had no building certificates or it wasn't finished. And it was worth less than the mortgage that we had on the property. So we were in a negative equity situation. So there we were again. We thought we were married, we were starting businesses, we were on the way up. And then all of a sudden, there we were hit. We'd no home that we could sell. We had nothing. And that's when, luckily, we had bought another house a couple of years earlier that was an investment property. So we had started to learn about investing. I'd actually been listening a few years earlier to a podcast. And it was a lady from America, and she was talking about investing and how powerful it was. And I was just soaking all this information up. I was just thinking, this is it. This is the key, because as good as my businesses were, money was coming into the businesses and money was going back out again. It was coming in, it was going out, it was coming in, it was going to, and I just never seemed to be able to get ahead financially. But this lady talking about investing really sparked an interest in me. So I set about learning absolutely everything that I could learn about investing. As I say, we already had our property, but then I started investing in stocks and shares and other things. And that's really brought me to where I am now, in a much better position now. In fact, at the minute, if my husband and I were to stop work tomorrow, our assets would fund our lifestyle. And that is a very lucky place to be in. So I've gone full circle from that 23-year-old with her mortgage-free home all the way through to being financially free in terms of having assets that can fund a lifestyle for me. So that's my journey in a nutshell, and yeah, a bit of a roller coaster.
But you got there in the end. No, I was going to say, fantastic that the end result is that you have got financial freedom. And I think that's one of the things that certainly what we try is to get people to work towards, and actually to put that into place. So that's fantastic that you're actually at that point where you now could stop tomorrow and know that you'd be comfortable for the rest of your life. And I know it's certainly a lovely feeling to have. So that's fantastic. So obviously, as with the Money Compass podcast, we also like to talk about travel, as travel something was very important to me. From your journey, you've obviously travelled from Northern Ireland to Canada, then back to Northern Ireland again. Have you been back to Canada since?
I don't think so, no. My favourite destination in the world is the French Alps. I absolutely love the Alps. I've been to France many, many, many times, different areas. And in fact, a couple of years ago, we actually went for the winter, took a chalet there and just spent the whole winter there. And that kind of, I had a different business then. I had a business in Northern Ireland that was location dependent, but I was able to manage it from afar and just have staff operate it for me. But then I decided I wanted to teach other people about how to get started investing, and I wanted an online business so that I could be completely location independent.
Yeah.
So now we've started to plan this winter, because obviously last winter was a bit of a disaster with everything that went on. But we are back to the French Alps again for this winter, and we're staying in a little first village. Our first stop is Sixt Cheval, which is a lovely little ski resort that we're staying in, and then we're going to head down to the south of France, and then we're going to head up to Austria to do a bit more skiing up in Austria before the ski season ends. So yeah, it's a pretty nice lifestyle from where I was to where I am now, and being able to make these choices. And as I say, because my business is teaching other people about investing, it means I'm able to do it from wherever I am in the world, which is lovely.
No, that's fantastic. Do you want to just tell anyone where they can find you online as well, sort of your online business? Yeah, sure.
You can find me on Facebook at Juanita Duke on Facebook and LinkedIn. infinitywealthcreation.com is my web address. I'm also the same on Instagram, and I have a Facebook group, Money Mastery, Let's Talk Money.
That is lovely. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and I look forward to speaking to you soon.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for inviting me, Julie. Thank you.
Problem.
And with that, we've completed today's episode. We hope you have enjoyed following along with us today and taking another step closer to a financially secure future.
If you've enjoyed today's podcast, you can head over to themoneycompass.co.uk, where you can find out more information, hints and tips from today's episode.
If you'd like to get more involved, share your own experiences and learn from a friendly community on a similar journey to you, why not join us in our Facebook group, The Money Compass, where we will support you in navigating your way to financial success.
Thank you for listening, and see you next time.